So we're going to do the joints of the lower extremity, starting with the sacroiliac joints. You often hear these abbreviated as the SI joints. So here are the sacroiliac joints, where the sacrum meets the ilium. Of course, you can also see those from the posterior side, which you can turn this around, and this would be a sacroiliac joint as well, but best seen from the front. So SI joint, sacroiliac. Here we have our pubic symphysis joint, where our pubic symphysis, this piece of cartilage that kind of looks like an intervertebral disc on its end, is holding the two pubic bones together in the front. And then we have the iliofemoral joint, which a lot of people think of as the classic hip joint, where the ilium, the socket of the acetabulum, meets the head of the femur. Then you have the tibiofemoral joint, which is the quintessential knee joint. So again, where the tibia and the fibula, or sorry, tibia and femur meet each other. So tibiofemoral joint. Tibiofibular joint has a proximal and distal, very similar to how the radius and ulna did. So this would be our proximal tibiofibular joint. This would be our distal tibiofibular joint right in here. Then you have the talocrural joints, or the ankle joints. Those are made up of two. And so you have two talocrural joints, the talotibial, which is going to be this joint right here between, we can get this guy's knee to bend, between the tibia and the talus, the superior surface of the talus. So that's going to be our talotibial joint. And then you're going to have a talofibular joint, which is right here between the fibula and the talus. Okay, so those are called collectively my talocrural joints. Then we have a subtalar joint, and the subtalar joint is between, so sorry, we had a skeleton bite the dust there. All right, so then we have a subtalar joint, which is the talocalcaneal joint. So it's this inferior surface between the inferior surface of the talus and the superior surface of the calcaneus. Then we have two mid-tarsal joints, so mid-ankle joints, if you will. Talonavicular, which is this joint right here between the talus and the navicular. And then you're going to have the calcaneocuboid joint as your second mid-tarsal joint between the calcaneus and the cuboid, which is right here. So calcaneocuboid joint. Then you have a cuneo-navicular joint. So cuneo-navicular joint is where the navicular meets the surface of all three medial, intermediate, and lateral cuneiforms. So again, that's the cuneo-navicular joint. Then you have the tarso-metatarsal joint. So where your end tarsal bone, so the distal end of my cuneiforms and my cuboid meet the base of my metatarsals. So these are all going to be tarso-metatarsal joints indicated there. And then you're going to have intermetatarsal joints, right? So those are going to be the joints between the metatarsal bone. So these are going to be intermetatarsal joints. And then you're going to have metatarsal phalangeal joints between the head of a metatarsal and the base of a proximal phalange. So all of these joints that I'm indicating right here, again, those are metatarsal phalangeal joints. And then of course you have interphalangeal joints. Now you only have one interphalangeal joint in the hallux, the big toe, because you only have a proximal and a distal phalange, but you have two interphalangeal joints in digits 2 through 5 at the dip joint and the pip joint. So the distal interphalangeal joint and the proximal interphalangeal joint all the way digits 2 through 5.